Welcome to Motherhood After Trauma, where we stop pretending and heal out loud. I'm Emily Cleghorn, trauma survivor, cycle breaker, and mama rebuilding from the inside out. If you're ready to break cycles, trust yourself again, and rise without shame, you're in the right place. Let's go. Before we dive in, I want to introduce you to something brand new. If you love the podcast and want a deeper connection to your healing, check out the monthly Peace Pack, a small trauma-informed tool delivered each month straight to your mailbox to help you find calm in the everyday. You'll also get access to our private Patreon community where mamas like you can share, support, and learn together. Sign up with the link in the show notes. Hello, friends, and welcome to this episode of the Mamahood After Trauma podcast. I am thrilled that you have taken some time out of your busy mama schedule to tune in and listen to our conversation today. Today, we are joined by Angele. I'm sorry if I
It's
pronounced your name
Angele.
wrong.
Yeah, that's okay. You get it all.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Emily. Glad to be here.
Yeah, let's dive right into our conversation. I'm thrilled that you're here. Could you introduce yourself a little bit and share a bit of how you came to work in the trauma recovery space?
Yeah, sure. I'm a clinical psychologist and I have been for a little over 20 years now. And so as a clinician, that definitely was, part of my training. But in terms of working with mothers specifically, it was really my own personal journey.
Mhm.
I'm a mom to three kids. They're now teenagers. Um, but for me, those early years went fairly smooth. I mean, they were exhausting
Mhm.
because while I had my three kids, I was working on my PhD in
Yeah.
psychology. So it was kind of go, 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 and just like do, and just, survival mode to just get it all done. And then it was, a few years into parenting, kind of when kids are at the age where you're supposed to, and I always want to say, quote, discipline, because I have issues with the word discipline, but
Mhm.
those kinds of behaviors where your kids are now at the age where we expect them to know better and do better. And I found myself kind of parenting in these typical ways, and it just didn't work. Now, I should say
Mhm.
my first kid is neurodiverse and has a
Mhm.
particular way of being in the world, and his own nervous system just
Mhm.
doesn't respond to kind of traditional parenting. And
Mhm.
so that kind of led me to really look at myself. I mean, because I was really struggling, and because I'm a therapist and I had done my own therapy, I thought I had kind of healed my own trauma wounds of my own experience. But yet here I was where, he would have these big feelings and sometimes even kind of rage and be angry because that's how his nervous system would shift him into the fight response. Well,
Mhm.
I found myself just freezing. Like
Mhm.
I just would numb. I was like it was one day my husband were playing a base family game of baseball and he's like, hello, he's snapping his fingers like, where did you go? And I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening to me? And then I, looking inward, realized, oh, this is my own trauma response.
Mhm.
So that was okay, get back into therapy and really look at what is happening here. And through that journey, I discovered matrescence, that this word that encapsulates how mothers are transforming our identities and in every way, right? Hormonally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, that's what I was going through. And part of matrescence acknowledges that what we haven't fully healed is going to get triggered in
Mhm.
motherhood. That's just part of the journey, right? It's part of the transformation. And so that, yeah, became my own sort of mission. I just recognized I need to heal myself in
Mhm.
order to be the mom my kid needs because I wasn't in my
Mhm.
default mode. And so through there, I just thought, why do not all moms understand matrescence? Why do we not all talk about how when we've had traumatic experiences, wounds, even if people don't like the word trauma per se, but our early childhood and our experiences are gonna naturally, come up as we're
Mhm.
parenting. And so that became the place that I just really wanted to spend my time, my energy, and my growth to kind of share what's been helpful for me.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing about your journey. And one thing that you said that I really want to make sure that our listeners hear is when you were talking about matrescence and when you become a mother, if you've got that unresolved emotional baggage, for no other better term, really,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
going to come up, it's going to be triggered, and it's just part of the journey. And so, mama, when you feel triggered, when you lose your cool, you are not failing,
Yeah.
you are not broken.
That's
And
so
I'm,
important because if the
yeah.
fact that nobody talks about it enough, right? Like moms, we read all these books, like,
Mhm,
what to expect when you're expecting. All of this knowledge, it's so focused first off on the baby and the growth
mhm,
and the health of, but not on matrescence, not on what mothers are going to go through. And so I feel like we're just not culturally because it's silenced, then there's no
mhm.
support, and that's then what happens is we turn against it. That's what happened to me. I turn against myself and just felt
Yeah,
self-blame and shame. And so part of me writing my book is to get the message out to as best as one little me can do so that moms don't have to suffer in that self-blame and shame.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what mamahood after trauma is all about too, is
That's right.
stripping that shame away
Yeah.
and normalizing that what we go through as trauma surviving mamas, or just mamas in general, because everybody's got trauma of some nature,
That's right.
um,
Right.
it's normal, and it doesn't make you a bad mom. It doesn't make you broken. So let's dive in, if we
Yeah.
could, to matrescence a little bit more so that our listeners can walk away with a bit more of an understanding of what it is and what the journey kind of looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So matrescence is a term that Dana Raphael, she was an anthropologist, and she's actually also um, responsible for coming up with the role in word doula. So she was interested in what happens to women when they become mothers, and this was back in the 70s. And so she coined the term matrescence to acknowledge that it turns out women go through a lot, as I
Mhm,
mentioned, in multiple ways of our lives and ourselves are transformed, are changing, and it is a transition period. Similar to, excuse me, adolescence, right? So we have this
mhm,
term adolescence to recognize what happens from childhood to adulthood. And similarly, women go through this transformation. And it's kind of like an umbrella term. There are multiple ways that it affects us. So
mhm,
one of the ways is, that unresolved trauma and reflecting on your own maternal style. So we realize once we become moms that we kind of have to choose, am I going to do things that my mom did or my guardian did, or am I going to do things differently? And we're making these decisions to come up with our own style of mothering. Also, changes in our relationships, right? There's kind
mhm,
of like I had a certain relationship with my mother-in-law before we had children. I had children, and then suddenly our whole relationship was different. And mothers find this with their friends. Some friends
mhm,
don't have kids, but it's not again talked about and named.
mhm.
Another impact is the myths of the so-called good mother that I talk a
Yeah.
lot about this in my book because matrescence acknowledges that we will absorb these cultural messages and they change over time. The idea of what is a good mother has shifted and changed, and currently it's this idea of being a super intensive mother, a super mom. We have this phrase, super mom, to,
Yeah.
what that means in modern day motherhood, which is completely unrealistic expectations. And and so the beauty of understanding matrescence is it gives us a language to be
Hmm.
able to understand our own internal experiences, put words to it, and
Hmm.
understanding with it, but then also choice, right? So we can understand we're going through all these changes, hopefully have compassion and give ourselves grace
Hmm.
because we're learning, we're shifting. We're not supposed to know it all. One of the myths, there are many myths that I talk about in my book. One of them is this idea that we're all born to be moms. You're so this
Yeah.
idea we're just supposed to know mother's
Yeah.
intuition. And so many moms don't get it. And they shouldn't because they're learning and they're growing. And so they can, we internalize these different messages that we get and we can then turn against our own self, right?
Yeah.
And we do feel, as you said, you're not broken, you're not failing. But so many of the moms I work with and listen to,
Hmm.
they get, a very harsh inner critical part that has internalized these messages
Hmm.
and leads them, becomes the internal dialogue. You're never measuring up. You're not good enough. And
Hmm.
it's so painful. And it
It is
affects your
painful.
experience of motherhood. It's if you feel like you're being put through the hot coals every single day, and yet you're
Mhm.
trying really hard, but you never feel like you're getting there. It can be really,
It's
really
a tough
hard.
spot to be.
It's super tough. And
Yeah,
especially if you don't have, no one's talking about it, right? You
absolutely.
feel it really isolated.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're feeling a particular way and nobody is talking about it, it can feel incredibly isolating.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important for us to have these conversations because it helps provide relief from that
Yes.
isolation. And then you can have that aha moment where you're like, "Oh, I'm not I'm not messing up. I'm not
Absolutely. I'm
I'm
not a
not all
bad
by
mom.
myself."
That's right. Exactly. And just because I'm not loving, like for me, I wasn't loving all aspects of motherhood, but I had, I guess, absorbed this idea that one of the myths, right, is we love all aspects of motherhood. And I didn't. And I had
Yeah,
a part of
I
me that
didn't
really,
either.
yeah,
I didn't
most,
either.
I mean, I would say most, like, and I can't, maybe there are some moms out there who really do enjoy all aspects. I don't know, but I don't think so. But yet we feel bad to name that out loud because we think
Hmm.
we're going to be perceived as a bad mom. People will
Yeah.
think, we preface things we say with, I love my kids, but, right? I'm sure
Yeah.
you've heard this, Emily, how many times? Like, I love my kids, but enter in the reality of women's lived experiences is that motherhood
Yeah.
is incredibly difficult. Parenting in this day and age is unprecedented times of stress, and we
Hmm.
know this. But yet we carry these ideas that we're supposed to be great at it, love it all, know what
Hmm.
we're doing. We don't need support. And so we feel bad if we actually say anything out loud, like say, actually, this is really hard. So yes,
Yeah.
spaces that you provide here and like in your podcast and is we have to name it out loud so that the mom who's, sitting at home with her kids and feeling that it's something's wrong with her, we can
Yeah.
help dispel and help her decondition that
Yeah.
belief.
Yeah. And I think something that's really important to highlight is so often within our society, we give ourselves some grace in the fourth trimester and maybe within the first year of parenthood. And then we tell ourselves, well, I should know what I'm doing because I've been a parent for a while. But what we don't often think about is your kid is going to continue growing and you've never had a child
Hmm.
of that's 6 or 7 or 15 or so you're still learning. It's still a new experience, even though it's been X number of years. So that grace
Yeah.
still needs to exist.
Absolutely. And I think so, while some people have, theorized that matrescence ends, only lasts for 7 years, I totally disagree. I think
Yeah.
matrescence, because of that, like, look at what moms go through when they, we have this phrase empty nest, like when they
Mm-hmm.
launch kids out, like that's a whole other process of identity, when now they
Mm-hmm.
have suddenly all this space and they're not needed in the same way. I mean, it's a lifelong journey of
Absolutely.
that relationship with our children, right? And as like you said, as they're constantly growing, and just when we think, I mean, that's been my experience as a parent, just when I think, okay, there's this challenge. So now I'm going to read and I'm going to spend time and then now, okay, great. I think I've figured out how I'm supposed to be with this issue. Then, of course, that issue's resolved. And now that we've moved on to something else. And it's a
Yeah.
constant invitation for learning, growing, and transforming. And that's actually the beauty of
Mm-hmm.
matrescence, is I do think it's, although there is the hard for sure, there's the breaking open, there's the mud,
Mm-hmm.
there's the lotus too. There is the opportunity, I think, because our wounds that haven't been healed get reactivated, it's an opportunity for us to heal.
It's an
And
invitation, really.
it is an invitation to awaken and heal and really transform ourselves.
Yeah.
So I like to always keep that in mind. I mean, it's a hopeful process. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful process that we are, lucky to be in, but we need more support. We need more
Absolutely.
understanding and awareness about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So part of my mission here with the podcast and Mamahood After Trauma is to make healing more accessible, regardless of financial restraints that may exist for mamas listening. So, with that in mind, I like to ask my guests to share one or two action steps that mamas can take with them and help them move forward on their healing journey. So, those mamas who are listening,
Hmm.
who have just had a light bulb turned on, what are some things that they can do to help them navigate their journey?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, just to say, so when my journey of healing brought me to learn internal family systems. So
Mm-hmm.
at the same time that I was kind of going through my breaking open in motherhood moment, and I had been a mindfulness meditation teacher. So, and that was kind of my training and focus. But the mindfulness just kind of wasn't enough. I could
Mm-hmm.
meditate and I was very aware of how to kind of basically I found myself unable to let all the thoughts come and go.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot in my mind and a lot of emotions, and it was pretty stormy pretty consistently. And so through internal family systems, the reason, and that's what I write about in my book, is to teach moms these practices, is it really, really also helped me dispel the shame and internal blame, is because it really brought me a deeper understanding of myself. So
Yeah.
that, well, one part, so IFS really is a parts-based, it's a psychotherapeutic model of healing and transformation. And
Mm-hmm.
it is evidence-based, and it helps us heal trauma because when we understand that we are, we have one self, capital
Mm-hmm.
S self, um, but we also have parts that are basically our protective system, right?
Yeah.
We have parts of us that help us be a human in the world. They help us adapt, they help us self-protect. And
Mm-hmm.
when we can develop a better understanding of the different parts and the emotions and reactions we have, that's really a game changer because it's how we're relating to our own self, which we have control over. So it's a very
Yeah.
empowering model. It's a very compassionate model, right? So for instance, I recognized, okay, so there's a part of me that doesn't like motherhood. It actually
Mm-hmm.
loves my career. It took me through grad school, and it was kind of, it would feel like bummed out by the fact that, yes, the demands of my little kids took me away. It felt like taking me away from my career.
Mm-hmm.
And but that wasn't all of me, right? That's not all of me. I have parts that love being a mom and wanted to focus on my kids and very much think that is the priority. So it created a feeling of ambivalence, which is part of
Mm-hmm.
matrescence. And understanding the parts helped me feel less bad about myself. Like it made sense to me. And so I am going to get to how do we work with this for moms to understand and to, if they can start to see All of our parts belong, right?
Hmm.
So it's okay that if some days you have a part that's in, and it might show up in thinking, like you might just have a thought, I'm done, I'm so done with this. I want, that's not wrong or bad. It's just a part of you that's in your system that
Yeah.
needs some attention, and that we can actually go to those parts of us and we can listen to them and validate and acknowledge them. And that can already, just even that, the two pieces, recognize that there's different parts of you, and
Yeah.
two, we can turn to them and send them curiosity and compassion, and they can feel settled. Our whole nervous system and body can start to feel already more regulated and settled just by doing that. So, does that make sense before I move into a
It
step
does.
by step? Do you have
It
any? Yeah.
does.
Okay, great. So there's a short practice. It's an acronym that I use like in those tough kind of parenting moments, and it's heal. The words are heal. So the H is just to halt. Like you got to just stop for a second to turn
Hmm.
inside. And what I mean by turn inside is just like bringing some attention inside your body, right? We're
Hmm.
usually in our days we're very externally focused. And the E is just to explore, okay, what
Hmm.
parts of me are here, right? So, for instance, like mornings are difficult for me getting my kids to school on time. I usually have a very strong protective part that gets angry, gets frustrated. Okay, so notice what's here. And so you just kind of tune in. Oh, it's a part that's frustrated, or it's a part that's sad, or maybe for some moms, it's a loneliness part, right?
Hmm.
And then A, you want to ask what is that part concerned about? What does it need in that moment? So we're tuning into ourself and what that part needs. And you might just you can ask the question out loud, or maybe you feel the part in a part of your body. So you
Hmm.
just kind of focus in on that part of your body and you just kind of drop in that question. And
Yeah.
then you just listen. And the part will let you know, oh, I need a
Yeah.
break. I need, maybe the loneliness is part is like, yeah, I need to reach out. And so we
Hmm.
have within that second, we can connect with what is it our parts are needing. And then the fourth is L, right? So heal, HEAL, is we want to let our self lead. Our self energy is the part of us that we all have self energy. It's kind of our core essence. When we are calm, when we're not in a threat situation, we can be calm and we feel that compassion. It's like our heart is open.
Hmm.
We can be more wise. That's our inner wisdom. In therapy, I call it our inner wise woman.
Hmm.
So usually when we can tune into those parts that are kind of there in the forefront, like they're our armor,
Hmm.
they see that we are there with them and we can connect with them. And then we say, can you let me lead from this place? And that way we're tuning to what our parts need, whether it's acknowledgement or maybe they want us to take action, like
Hmm.
take a break or reach out. And then they do usually let us, as our kind of wise inner woman, come to the forefront. And those are the moments that we really can connect with our kids. That's the energy from which ideally we can parent. Now, obviously not all of the time, right? Our parts do a lot of our parenting, but this is the practice of just tuning into our parts, getting curious, connecting with them that is really, really healing.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I just want to remind our listener if they're listening to this and they're thinking, oh no, another thing I need to add to my list. It's not about perfection. It's not about it taking 15 minutes or a half an hour.
Yeah, not even.
It it can it can be just a simple stop, notice, ask, and allow yourself to move forward. It doesn't have to take a long time.
No, and in fact, we could even make it be two steps. I mean, even just a hand on the heart. Like when I notice I'm emotionally charged,
Hmm.
hand on the heart, and I just say, and this gives me so much more consciousness and more self energy in the moment, is I just say, I'm sorry that you're hurting. Like even just, it's okay, just like a
Yeah.
calm, self-compassionate phrase. So if the four steps feel like a lot and it's like, what was that step again? Just even those two pieces, right? And if
Yeah.
you do that throughout your day, you'll start to really shift. I mean, you actually are changing your neural pathways in your brain, right?
Yeah.
You are connecting more with that energy of self-compassion, of caring for yourself, which leads to more caring
Yeah.
for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And it has those ripple effects. You're absolutely right, Emily.
Yeah.
We don't need to overcomplicate it. It can be very simple. And in fact, so on my website, because
Yeah.
to your mission, to really make therapy and healing and practices accessible, I have some short little videos that kind of walk you through and teach moms how to practice this. That's free. They just sign up and they can access that, and some, also some guided meditations that help us. If you listen to a few guided ones, then you can start to understand, oh, this is how it works, right?
Yeah.
And then you're off and running. So those are available to help moms kind of make sense of what it is that I'm trying to teach in words.
Awesome. And I will make sure that the link to your website is down in the show notes so that it's easy for mamas to find on the go. How else can they connect with you if they wish to do so?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram. I don't go on there a ton because I'm trying to conserve my energy in helpful ways. But I mean, they can certainly DM me there if they have any
Mhm.
questions or just want to kind of follow along. And my book will be coming out at the end of January, and that really dives in. I've worked with a lot of moms and hearing their stories too, just to give examples to start to understand what is this matrescence for me, um, and what kind of parts, the mom parts that show up for us. I talk a lot about the mom parts so that we can start to get a sense, how we can change our own relationship with our own parts of us through this motherhood journey. And yeah, I mean, it really helped me. I tell you, that inner practice was the most effective for me as a parent, and I lean on it daily as I have three teenagers. And yeah, I hope they'll find it something from it. And if they want to connect with me, I'd love to hear from anyone.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy day to join us on the podcast. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Emily.
Thanks for listening to Mamahood After Trauma. Take one insight from today, breathe, reflect, and keep healing out loud. Subscribe to the podcast for more stories, tools, and support. And remember, Mama, you're breaking cycles and rising with honesty. Until next time, mend the past so you can mama in peace.